A man writes, before my wedding, I asked a number of people for 3 ideas that they felt were most helpful for a harmonious marriage. The one idea that helped me the most was from a man who was now happily married after having experienced 2 divorces. What did he say, this man who had experienced 2 divorces? He says, I'll tell you a question to ask yourself that cost me a great deal to learn, he told the young man. Before I asked this question, I ruined 2 marriages. I suffered a lot and caused suffering to others. Now I consistently ask myself this question. I'm happily married. I'm certain that if I had asked myself this question, my first marriages would never have ended in divorce and it would have been successful. And he says to the young man the following, before asking your spouse for anything, the question to ask yourself is, how can I make my spouse feel good about complying with my request? Very intelligent. How can I ask in a way that I can make her feel good, make him feel good about wanting to do what I want them to do? The first 2 times I was married, the man said, I gave orders in a commanding voice, harsh, biting. If my request was not met, I spoke in anger. I instilled guilt and fear. At times, I got what I asked for, but like the old saying goes, the operation was successful. Unfortunately, the patient died. You can, as they say, win the battle, but lose the war. My Rabbi, Victor Miller, used to tell us how many guys got into battles with their wives and had to have the last word, and today are living in basement apartments eating frozen dinners while their wives and children are back at the house. All because they had to win the war. So if you want a healthy, vital marriage, speak and act, he tells the young man, in a way that'll make your spouse happy to do the things you want and need to get done. Case number 2. I hated the way my mother treated my father. She would frequently scold and nag him. I felt my father was henpecked and pledged that when I got married, I would never treat my husband that way. When I got engaged, I was so thrilled with my groom that I was certain I would find it easy to keep my pledge of being kind and sweet and nice to him. When I made it, it was theoretical. Well, I was in for a shock when a few days after the wedding I heard myself nag my beloved husband the same way my mother used to nag my father. I could hardly believe now how I used the same words and tone of voice that my mother did, as if I had a tape recorder in my brain that played itself automatically. I was doing the same exact thing my mother did. I was violating the very same principles. I remembered hearing that if you want to change a pattern, you need to clarify the pattern you want to live with. I practiced more respectful approaches. Again, you can condition yourself to behaving better by practicing it. I even looked in the mirror when I rehearsed the pleasant ways of speaking that I wanted to integrate into my conversation and my style. And I felt that this is so important that I was willing to repeat this technique thousands of times, but I was able to change myself, and that's critical. So we need to know that we can change and we can speak in a more pleasant, respectful manner. Case number 3, I liked my spouse very much, but there were a number of things that my spouse said and did that I felt would be looked at negatively by others. I kept telling my spouse that there was a need for change in these areas, but to no avail. It wasn't easy for my spouse to change his patterns or her patterns. I guess the fact that they didn't really bother me personally added to the fact of lack of motivation to put the effort necessary to make the changes. I attended a class that discussed that we had to change those, and the class helped me to take on that method and change, and that was critical, and I worked on myself and I was able to change.